everybody. So before I start the video, I just wanted to quickly go over a Patreon that I recently started. Only donate to this if you have disposable income and you really like the content. I'm not struggling, so you know you don't have to do this. Everything I make will always be free. I'm never going to put anything I create behind a pay gate at all. But if you do enjoy this and want to help me continue to make mod lists or VR related reviews and videos, then feel free to do that. I'm going to start putting the Patreon link in the description of my videos. I don't have a ton of rewards right now. You can get a Discord badge, a VIP badge for Twitch. And the other main reason I did want to start this was to potentially restart a Minecraft VR server that I had going around 6 months ago. I put a lot of effort into making this, but the cost of server upkeep just became too much for the amount of people that were playing. We also had a lot of griefers, so if you want to help me restart the server, then you can do that through Patreon. Anyways, on to the review. All right, welcome to my review of Grapple Tournament. So what is Grapple Tournament? Grapple Tournament is a virtual reality multiplayer arcade shooter focused on adrenaline-packed vertical combat that's set to release later this week. There's full 3D freedom of movement, and if you couldn't tell by the name, you have a grappling hook, which is one of the main gameplay mechanics you're going to be using here. You can also dual wield in battle with multifunctional equipment. So I'm going to be going over the graphics, sound, and gameplay, and then I'll give you my final score from the review copy that I tried this week. All right, so let's start with the graphics. So some of the pros. There are cel-shaded graphics here that looked great in the headset. It was also really light in the performance, so I appreciated that. This seems like something that can probably run on most PCs and most equipment. I know they have plans to bring it to all headsets, including the Oculus Quest. And then there was also a lot of great weapon particle effects. I particularly liked the purple laser zap effect on the guns. I thought that was really awesome to see. And it was fun to use as well. There's also self-shadowing of your own avatar, so that was a cool addition. The maps are also really well made, and they looked beautiful on the headset. And one thing that I really enjoyed was there's an insane amount of customizations that you can have for your avatar, especially with the hats. They have 51 different hats that you can choose to wear. There's even a Knuckles hat from the old VR chat days. So that was really cool to see. So I enjoyed that. Some of the cons for the graphics. So some of the guns are a little bit more bland looking. So it seemed like the plasma and the laser weapons, those looked really cool. But some of the more basic guns were a little bit boring. There's also not too many maps at the moment. There are 3. The maps that are there are very well made, and I know that the developer does plan to add more in the future. All right, moving straight on to sound. So all the guns did sound great. I don't really have any complaints about the gun sounds. Particularly the plasma and laser guns sounded awesome, and especially there's a laser sword that you can use. I'm going to go over that in the gameplay section of your basic loadout that you can have. But the laser sword sounds like straight out of Halo, so that was awesome. Grappling hook and flying through the air, those sounded great. Obviously, the grappling hook sounds awesome because that's the main mechanic. That's pretty much it for the pros. No major complaints about the sound. Some of the cons, though. So walking on the ground kind of felt a bit tinny. Didn't seem like it was kind of light, but you're spending most of your time in the air anyway, so I don't think that's a huge drawback. So the other major con that I had was there is a training and parkour map. It's not a part of the main game, but the parkour map was pretty cool. You can go around and collect coins, but there is no background music. So I was streaming this, and people on my stream were like, "Oh, this looks like Mario." So I ended up just playing some Mario music while I was playing through it. So my only suggestion is maybe add some kind of music to those maps because it felt very dead when I was flying around trying to collect the coins. So other than that, no real complaints. Sounds pretty good. I would just add some background music. All right, and now we're on to the gameplay. So some of the pros. The movement felt fluid, fast, and fun. Grappling onto walls and platforms felt really awesome, and it was really kind of unique and different from other VR shooters that I've tried. The closest thing I can kind of compare to it is like a VR version of Unreal Tournament 2004. I used to spend an ungodly amount of time playing that as a kid, so it was kind of cool to experience a VR version of that. You can also climb onto anything by just grabbing onto the walls with your controllers, kind of like Population 1 does it. That's another fun VR game that recently came out. You also have 3 default weapons that you can choose from your loadout. So 2 of them you can't really customize. That is a bow and arrow that you can use by just making a shooting motion with your hands. You also have the laser sword, which I talked about previously, and it's basically the sword from Halo. You can just get that by reaching behind your right shoulder. I believe you can also customize that to your other hand if you're left-handed. And then you have a customizable sidearm, so any pistol that's in the game, you can customize that to have that on your hip, and you can choose that as the default weapon. And you're also going to find weapons scattered around the map, so you can just change that, or you can dual wield by just picking it up and walking over it. You're also going to see shield and health pickups. So if you get shot or something, you can find health around the map. So it's very kind of fast-paced, arcadey type of gameplay. So yeah, the shooting is very arcadey. It is similar to Population 1, where you have an aiming like reticle, that you can just use to aim. You can also aim down the sights if you want, I suppose, but you're basically just kind of hip firing with that aiming reticle. And I think it works for this type of gameplay, since you're going to be flying all over the map using your grappling hook, climbing up stuff, and just kind of like zooming around, trying to get the higher ground on people. And it's like similar to Halo type of fast-paced gameplay. Now, if you do dual wield, there's a drawback. So you're not going to be able to use your grappling hook while dual wielding, and also the heavier weapons, which tend to do more damage, will slow you down. So there's a meta game aspect to that. And there are 2 game modes right now. I did both of them. It was Team Deathmatch or Free For All. They both felt great. You're trying to get the most points and get the most kills in the shortest amount of time. There's a time limit on each map, so pretty typical game modes for that. And I mentioned before, the maps are really well made for this type of game. You can fly around, climb up stuff. There were some like weird invisible walls, which I'm going to get to that in the cons. But overall, it felt pretty good to fly around. And this is a game that I feel really benefits from wireless VR. So I know they are planning to port this to Oculus Quest, and I think this will probably be a pretty popular game on Quest, hopefully. Because just kind of making like fast-paced turns without having to use your controller was very useful. I happen to use a wireless Vive, so I had no real issues. But this is definitely a game that does benefit from wireless. All right, and now moving on to the cons. So I didn't get a chance to do the multiplayer since the game isn't out yet, and I was given an early copy. So I was fighting against bots. Now there were a decent amount of difficulties. There was easy to hard, and then they had a difficulty called 2020, which was the hardest difficulty, and I found that kind of funny. Now the AI was okay. I didn't have too many issues with them. On the harder difficulties, easy was just stupid easy. So I wouldn't recommend you do that if you're fighting against bots. But there was one time where this one enemy AI was just kind of standing still, and then I got up close and they started firing at me. So not too many weird things, but that I did run into one weird issue. There was also a huge spike in difficulty between hard and 2020, which maybe they did that on purpose. 2020 was extremely hard. I don't think I won any games on that difficulty, but I did win a couple on hard. So that, I thought that should be mentioned. But I'm sure once this game is actually released and there's real people that you're playing against, this is going to be a non-issue because you're going to be fighting against real people. So they're going to, do things that actual people will do and not AI. Now, the 2 game modes are fun. I hope that the developer adds more. Like, I think capture the flag would be a really fun thing to have in here, especially with the fast-paced movement. I think that would fit really well. So hopefully there's a plan to add that instead of just the deathmatch type of games. They're fun, but I do think there needs to be a little bit more game modes in here. Okay, so the laser sword. The laser sword is fun, or the thing you have, like the Halo sword. It is super overpowered, and I really think that needs to be nerfed. It might be just because I was fighting bots, but I was able to essentially one-shot kill anything by just, grappling up close to them and swinging my hands. They died very fast to that sword, so I think that there needs to be some kind of nerf to that, because there's almost like no point to use any of the guns, because you just use your sword and pretty much win the game by just whacking them. I mean, it's fun, but it needs to be nerfed. Adding on to that, there was sometimes I was trying to use the bow and arrow because I found the bow and arrow mechanic pretty cool, like the futuristic thing where you just kind of like make a bow and arrow motion with your hands. But sometimes when I was doing that, I would accidentally get the sword in my hands. So maybe there needs to be like some kind of a change on the detection of the sword on your back, because that happened a few times and it was a little bit annoying. All right, the other major thing is there was lots of times where I wanted to grapple with both hands. So right now you can only grapple with one hand. You can customize it to either be your right hand or your left hand. You probably want to put it on your offhand. If you're right-handed, you'd want it on your left. But I don't understand why we can't have grapples on both hands, because then it could kind of be like Spider-Man, I wanted to like grapple with both hands and like move faster on the map. So hopefully the dev will add that as an option instead of just grappling with one hand. I mean, I kind of understand it. You have a gun in one hand, grapple in the other. But if you already have 2 guns, you can't grapple anyway. So I don't understand why you wouldn't be able to grapple with both hands. So hopefully that is an option. Now, climbing was a hit or miss for me. Like sometimes the climbing worked when I wanted to climb somewhere, it was fine. But there was a couple times where I was like trying to climb up something and it wouldn't let me like go over the ledge. So I'm hoping that, that will be fixed. Population 1 does it in a really nice way where it'll just like get you over the ledge or something, and you don't really have to worry about it. So hopefully that will be added to a future update for this. All right, now what are my overall thoughts? Overall, this feels like it could really be a fun multiplayer VR shooter. It's definitely different than other games. I mean, it kind of feels like there was a game that came out this is like an early VR game where it was kind of like Mirror's Edge. I forget the name of it, but this does feel like a shooter Mirror's Edge VR type of thing with like fast-paced movement. So if anyone is like a fan of Halo or Unreal Tournament, I think they would like this. So my final score for this game is going to be a 7 out of 10 for Grapple Tournament. And it's going to be released on Steam on November 5th, the Oculus Store in December, and then the native Oculus Quest support is going to come sometime in 2021. So I'm going to leave a link to the Steam link in the description, along with some information about the game. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and have a great rest of your day.